Play ball.
Awesome. Welcome back to the Slide Podcast. I am your host, Coach Aaron, and today I'm doing this one solo. And today we're joined with Coach Ronnie Bernick. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing? I'm glad to
I'm
be here.
doing good, doing good. Thank you for taking time out of your super busy schedule to come talk with us a little bit. So, um, like for our listeners out there, go look this dude up, man. His resume speaks for itself. And a phenomenal individual and representation of baseball today. So, Ronnie, thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, well, look, we're going to get into the interview here in just a few minutes, but man, you're getting some crazy weather there, right? You're in upper state New York.
Yep, Western New York. I got about a foot and a half, but a lot of the people that work at our places, they're exceeding 4.5 feet, maybe even 5 feet now. So we're getting slammed right now.
Yeah. Well, us in the South, we don't know what that's like. So we're used to even our ski slopes actually have to have blown snow, fake snow.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's not something I'm comfortable with right now this time of my life. So
that's right.
awesome. Well, look, man, we've got a lot of things to talk about. And really, I'd like to start with, tell us a little bit of how your journey in baseball got started. And because this dude's a coach, he's a scout, he's been a phenomenal player. Like this dude's got it all. So, Ronnie, tell us how it got started.
Yeah, so I mean, just like most kids, I played your typical t-ball up into coach pitch, growing up. And then travel baseball was kind of getting started when I was like 12, 13 years old. And I had made an all-star team, which like at the time, making your all-star team in house baseball was like the biggest deal ever. So made my all-star team, got asked to play for this travel team locally, and then again got picked up by a team that was going to travel around the country and play. So from the time I was like 13 to 18, I traveled, Florida, Georgia, Carolinas, Michigan. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So for me, that's a lot of travel just to play and see what competition was like. But and I know you and I talked about this briefly in the past, but I had adversity growing up. Like everybody has their own trials, and
Yep.
for a while, baseball was my escape. That was my outlet. It was a place that I could feel free, and so I really didn't play with a lot of stress. I always played with like a chip. Like I always felt like I had something to prove, whether that was internal for myself or whether I was trying to prove that I was an undersized shortstop that had a good arm and wanted to show everybody. I was
Right.
the guy that kind of knew what my skill set was, but then wanted to go show everybody. And so when I got to high school, I was looking at going to Duquesne University, Pittsburgh, 8 minutes from my house. I was really excited about it. They ended up dropping their baseball program like 10 days before I was supposed to sign. Got lucky. I got into a showcase where Canisius College saw me. And I played for head coach Mike McCray for 4 years at Canisius and learned from some amazing players. My first year I sat behind a 17th round draft pick shortstop that was at big league camp. And, was just an amazing role model for me. His name's Sean Jameson, an awesome role model for me, taught me about everything on how to perform, not only professionally as a collegiate shortstop and collegiate athlete, but how to carry myself and how to stand up for my teammates and make sure that like I had the right ideas and how I wanted to go about the game. And I learned so much in those 4 years about how to be a part of a team, how to lead. And then from there, I moved into college coaching. I coached 2 years at Niagara University and, learned that I wanted to have a bigger impact with more kids. It wasn't the fact that the 35 kids that I was with were, not what I wanted to do, but I felt like my reach could be much bigger if I got into what I do now. And so I started a facility. I had an investor that literally just took a flyer on me and said, "Here, I'll give you a chance and see how you do." And started in a very small facility and, grew it to the point where I had to basically purchase a building that was 4 times the size just to manage the flow of kids that we had coming in. I got really lucky in 2018 where a family brought a kid who was drafted in the 6th round and then a first rounder a few years later. And from there, things kind of exploded for me in a sense of, connections. Not necessarily like, every kid in the area was coming, but I started meeting a lot of people, whether it was scouting directors, assistant general managers, area scouts. So I got into working at the area code games, and I work and coach with the New York Yankees area code team. I've done that for 5 years now. I do a lot of their ID events locally. I scout Western New York and the Northeast with USA Baseball and work with our team of guys there to try and find the best kids in the Northeast to go compete for, national team selection and, training athletes now regionally. It used to be just locally, but, we just had a kid flying from Colorado to train with us.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. And then we had a couple kids from New York City. And for those of you that don't know, New York City to Buffalo is a 7.5 hour drive. So, the kid flying from Colorado got here faster than the kid driving from New York City. So it's been really cool. And the type of athletes we're training is very diverse. It's your 5-year-old kid that's just trying to see if he likes baseball all the way up through, Matt Brash, who pitches for the Seattle Mariners in the major leagues. And so,
Right.
it's really cool to be able to learn from the younger kids still, even though we're now working with kids that have, reached the pinnacle of our sport.
Yeah, I think that speaks a lot. I mean, a lot of trainers could say, now we're training MLB, draft picks. We don't want to spend time with some of the younger kids. We're going to focus on this age group, and you guys haven't done that. And I think that's critical, because I and knowing you as a person, I know that 5-year-old that's training is just as important as anyone else that's in that building. So hats off to you. So the name of your facility is Hot Corner Athletes, right?
Hot Corner Athletics. Yep.
Athletics, like that's
Yep.
right. And like there's so much you just said that we can expand on. So let's talk a little bit about this role with the Yankees. And so you're a Western New York, I assume, scout. Is that how it works?
That's with USA Baseball.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, with the Yankees, what I do, so I'm employed by Stack Sports and Area Code to run their ID series events. So I basically identify the fringe guys for area code games, and the athletes that make the area code games is the top 220 players in the country, between the sophomore and junior classes in high school. When I had my sixth and first round draft picks, they were looking for guys that wanted to help coach, because at those events, the scouts are the guys that are actually coaching the teams. And
Okay.
so at times, like, they're very limited on whether they can actually evaluate the talent. And we're talking about kids that are like Anthony Volpe was on our area
Oh,
code team,
wow.
plays in the
Okay.
major leagues with the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
And I always say, could you imagine if we weren't there to be able to have me, even if it's throwing batting practice, hitting a fungo, doing defensive work, if they were doing that at all times, how would they be able to evaluate the talent? So I help coach the New York Yankees area code, their underclass and their upper class teams at the area code games. And what that's done is it's just opened up a door of hundreds and hundreds of scouts that I've been able to meet, and learn from, honestly, along the way of what they're trying to evaluate and what they're looking for in a high school kid. So I can bring that back to our facility and tell the 14 or 15-year-old kid, like every 14 or 15-year-old kid that has aspirations of playing at the major league level, hey, I've learned from these guys and here's what it takes.
Well, so thinking about our show, and we're definitely a youth-based show.
Yep.
Like, and every 5, 6, 7, 8 year old out there right now, probably their hopes and dreams are in the MLB, right?
Yep.
Parents the same way. Like, my baby's going pro, right?
Yep.
So what would you say to let's look at a 10U, a 10-year-old kid, right? What would you advise the parents if a coaches came to them and said, you may want to, like, this kid's got some gifts here. Like, how would you and what would you advise those parents to do?
Yeah, I don't think limiting the work is going to ever be a part of the conversation.
Okay.
And I think you're always going to have to work really hard. And I think about it this way. There are so many kids around the world, not the United States, around the world, that are so less privileged than we are,
Mm-hmm.
that are literally fighting for their lives to get into professional baseball.
Right.
So it's not we have all the resources in the world to be able to help our kids have an advantage. But how much are they working for it? Now that gets deeper, because I don't want to force my kid to go to the cage 7 days a week. That's not what he wants to do.
Right.
So if I'm looking at a 10-year-old kid that has talent, add so much fun into it. Let's have fun every single day. Let's have a game within the game. Let's learn about the things that you really like to do on the field. learn more about positions that you can play and what you'll, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but even for the 10-year-old kid, I hear this all the time. Well, my kid's the shortstop. Okay, but
Right.
that's cool at 10. Here's the hard part. What happens whenever you're 20 and you're in college and there's a kid that's been there for 3 years and he's the shortstop?
Yep.
You're not just going to be the shortstop, but if you have a chance to play other positions and learn other positions, not only will you have more of an understanding of the game of baseball in general and where people are supposed to be and how plays are going to happen and unfold and where you need to be, but you're also going to allow yourself to have more opportunities to get on the field because at some point it does get really hard to get on the field,
Yeah.
and even on top of that, like I have kids that I've worked with for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good and bad. I think everything has a good and a bad side to it.
Yep.
Learn from as many people as you can. And you know what? A coach that might get upset about you trying to learn from somebody else may not have your best interest in mind. And that's coming from a coach who works with athletes every single day. I try to tell all of our kids, don't just listen to me. Learn from all the other 14 coaches that we have at Hot Corner. Learn from your travel coach, learn from your high school coach, learn from Instagram, learn from Twitter. There's a lot of information out there now. It's really important to just be a sponge and learn and then figure out what your filter is. What information do you want to keep and what information do you want to get rid of? And that goes back to self, right? If you think about natural feel and flow of just anybody, a 10-year-old, they're going to be able to perform better when they keep the information that makes the most sense to them, because there is no standard one way to do anything.
That's right.
Even in the game of baseball, there's 750 players in the big leagues. They all have different styles and different feels to how they produce the same product. So when you're talking to a 10-year-old, try out, a bunch of different things that make sense to him. And go back and look at your swing when you were 4 years old. That's probably the best swing you've ever taken in your life. And just being able to replicate that at 15 and 16 years old is actually the challenge, because in that time, that's whenever we hear a lot of information and make a lot of changes.
Yeah. I think what you just said, like, it really hits home, because you got a lot of kids that, they will only play for certain coaches. And, like what you just pointed out, you kind of limit your knowledge to that one individual. And sometimes they do know a lot, and, give them credit for it, but also experiment with different things, because maybe that coach has got that player to as far as he can get that player. And then he needs someone to, continue to lift that kid higher. But, I see it a lot in the travel baseball world, is that's our coach. We're not playing for anyone else. And that's great. But then when you get, added to these showcase tournaments and you get, coaches assigned to your teams, that might not go well, because your player isn't like haven't had to experience adjusting to different coaching styles. And I think that's critical as well. And just to finish, and I'll shut up, but I think you can learn something from all interactions. You can either learn what not to do, or you can learn what to do. And as long as you approach each situation in that way, like, you'll always walk away with some valuable information. So sorry, I know you were about to say something.
No, and that's great. And I was actually going to go off. I was going to go off a lot on that too. Like
Yeah.
there are going to be things that don't connect and click with you. That's okay.
Yeah.
At least though, and you heard it from somebody. And it's not to discredit any coach at all. There are times and I told you this, we've worked with big leaguers, we've worked with first rounders, we worked with, Olympians. I don't know everything. So the way I communicate and connect with a certain kid, it doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means that it doesn't connect with that kid.
Right.
And that's okay. Because if I work with 100 kids that I connect with, and then you find somebody that you connect with, everybody wins. And I think overall in the coaching space, I'll say it as a coach, like there's a lot of ego in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But there is. And being able to remove that and really look at why you're a coach in the first place is to help the next generation. We're just trying to help the next generation get where they can go. If you're a 10-year-old kid, there are millions of coaches around the world that are doing this and doing this really well. Learn from all of them if you can, because then once you get older and your filter starts to change, now you know how to kind of navigate who to go back to when you need something.
Yeah.
People you have in your corner, the better.
Yeah. And then even that information that didn't click with you to begin with, 2 years down the road, you may be put in a situation where all of a sudden you've got that in your toolbox, and and it all of a sudden starts to make sense. So
Absolutely.
I think that that's huge. So you've worked with over 250 college baseball players. I'm sure that number is highly increased since that. But trained MLB draft picks. What are you starting to see? I mean, baseball seems so much different than when I graduated, and I was in the 90s. Yes, I'm old, but like baseball, like we didn't have travel baseball back then. It was really like I played Pony League and Colt and got into JV in high school. What have you noticed has changed about baseball and some of these like incredible athletes that we're starting to see now? What's the change for? Like, how is it happening?
Yeah. So what I noticed is that we are way more athletic than ever before.
Yeah,
We're way more skilled than ever before. We're throwing harder. We're hitting the ball harder than ever before. And that's the data analytics. That's the sports performance. Like we do a lot of that stuff. I mean, we dabble in pretty much everything we can. What I also notice is that there's a lot of kids that don't know how to play baseball. And
mm,
that's because of the limited people that are going outside and playing sandlot games, and not always being under a microscope. Like there should be gameplay time where you're just figuring things out. When you're 14 years old, I don't care what your fielding percentage is. I don't care what your batting average is. I don't care what your exit velocity is. I want you to be able to come to me and say, hey, when a ball hits the ground, when a ball hits the dirt, I know that, this kid's 14, so he's probably not going to be able to block the baseball like a professional guy. I'm going to learn how to get a good read and take off. Or a ball's hitting the gap, and the middle fielders automatically know how to double cut without somebody telling them that they need to go double cut.
right.
I think that is part of the game where we can definitely get better. I think kids are so incredibly athletic and talented now. We are losing sight of the game of baseball. And I think if they play more meaningless games, I think we learn more about the game while still training. Like I think as an industry, we're close. There's still so much happening in the showcase world, the showcase event, showcase tournament, that kids don't have the time to make mistakes anymore.
Right.
And I think if we can go back to allowing them to play the game of failure, which is failing very often, and
Right.
learning that they have to take an angle on the backhand versus going straight to it, little things like that, then I think that the game itself is going to get a lot better. So the kid that is 10 years old that's trying to, really make a name for himself in the game of baseball, go play the game. And if you want to call it something, play 30 scrimmages a year, right? Just scrimmage
Yep.
and don't keep stats and just go enjoy yourself and figure out how the game now it works. Because if you're a baseball player, you'll have opportunity, especially as you get older and you get stronger.
Yeah. I mean, you and I talked last week about just our childhood and growing up. And I remember, man, I remember falling in love with the game, and I had no coaches around. Like I didn't need a coach. Like we coached ourselves in a lot of cases. And I fell in love with the game there. And like it is very hard not to or to hold on to that love of the game as you progress, just because the game is hard. And but a lot of these kids these days just don't get the opportunity to play, like you said, meaningless scrimmage games or whatever the case may be. I mean, in my area, and I don't know about yours, but like every one of our field complexes are locked unless there's a game scheduled. We can't get on a diamond unless, we have paid some money, signed a document, and got it to the right person. And unfortunately, there's not as many fields today as what they were, back when I was growing up. And it's hard for kids to do that. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to encourage in our area is look on the weekends, like let kids just come play.
Yep.
Let's just have on Sunday nights. We can call it whatever, 6 o'clock. Whoever wants to come play baseball, everybody shows up. We'll assign teams. Y'all just go play. You don't need coaches. You don't need umpires. Just go do it. And because I think that's what a lot of these kids that's been groomed at such a young age, they don't know what it's like to get out there and not have pressure on you. And some of it, man, you just got to really find the love. And I think that's where if you don't have some of those elements, it is really hard to overcome the game when it gets really difficult because you don't have those memories to reflect on. You don't have those experience to draw from. So I don't know. I could
Well,
talk forever about that.
and if you love the game of baseball, you're gonna find pressure at some point
You're right.
because as you get better, there's gonna be more pressure. But why give it to a 12-year-old kid who doesn't even know how much he cares about this game yet? Let
Yeah.
him go care about the game first. And I'll tell you, I mean, and we could talk about this for 5 days, but the reason why you and I are still in this game is because we fell in love with the game of baseball.
Right.
It wasn't forced upon me at any time in my life. If I wanted to quit playing at any point, my mom would have cared about me the same that she does today. Right? There was no pressure. If I would have been 2 years into college and said, I'm done with this, fine, let's figure out what's next in your life.
Yep.
I was never pressured to do anything or to show up. I mean, when I made a commitment, I had to honor my commitment, but
Right.
I didn't have to continue to play if I didn't want to. I stay in the game because I care so much about it and what it's taught me that I wish and I hope that I can continue to do that to the athletes that we train. But I'm hoping that across the board we can just say, hey, you know, there's going to be a sandlot game. And you know what? Parents, like, let's get out of here. Let's let them just hang out for a couple hours. We don't even need to monitor them. Let's let them just play. Are they going to argue about calls? Yes, but they're going to learn a lot more about the game in those arguments and those things that are happening than if we have 4 umpires and parents monitoring what's going on throughout the game. I think that's what we're missing. Everybody is under a microscope. You can be evaluated and ranked from the time that you're in 8th grade until you're a senior in high school now. And I think so many kids are chasing ranking, chasing velocity, chasing exit velo numbers. They're number chasing. And that's partly where the analytics came in. And I think we're losing sight of what actually matters. Go look at the teams that win the World Series. Those teams are really good at playing baseball as a team.
Right.
Are they super talented? Of course they are. They've worked their whole life to get to that point, but they're the best baseball team. And there's a huge difference between the best baseball team and 9 individuals on a field.
Yeah. Well, and that's what makes the game even more special because in life, we were talking about this before we were recording, but life skills, you put kids in a situation like what you were just saying as parents and coaches, let's get out of here and let's let them deal with it. Like even in those interactions, that builds character, that builds leadership, that there's so many things that they will learn in those arguments. I mean, they may get mad. I mean, but you know what? It's okay. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's where, just, I guess it's the terminology helicopter parent or whatever. We always have to be around. If something's going wrong, we got to get involved. And sometimes we just need to let kids be kids and they're going to argue, they're going to fuss, but they'll figure it out and they'll understand and enjoy it even more having done that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's, yeah, man, I wish kids could go back. And, I'm the old guy that always says, yeah, I didn't come home till the lights came on and all that stuff, but it was true.
Yeah.
Uh, well, man, so you've worked with and scout for the USA team. Like, what has that been like? 'Cause that
Yeah.
that's
So,
that's pretty awesome and special there.
yep. So, again, our first rounder, this is where the connections come in. Made Team USA during COVID year. He was a part of the team that wasn't able to travel internationally because COVID shut everything down, but made the team. And one of my coaches in college, who was the director of 18U baseball, said, hey, we don't have a representative in Buffalo. We'd love for you to be that guy. So got with the regional crew and the East Coast crew and said, all right, it's time to evaluate. So USA Baseball has a national team identification series event that they run and carry every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's where their training complex is.
Yep.
And so basically what I do is I run a few events in the Northeast and I work with our regional director and our East Coast director and come up with events where we can identify kids that we think are potentially ready to make the national team. And I've actually, and this is why I love coming on this podcast. Like, we talked a little bit about me working with the older guys. I choose to go the week that I get to work with the young kids.
Yeah.
So at the end of August, I always take the 11U group. They're really fun. There's, again, no pressure. They're having a good time. Are they being evaluated? Absolutely. But they're being evaluated to see where they're at on the best competition in the world. And 2 years ago, I went down there and our 10U team took home. I was a coach of that team. We took home the first ever gold medal for the East Coast for the NTIS at that age bracket.
Awesome.
So it was really cool. We had, a couple kids get callbacks for the national team, and then one kid made it, and they went down to the Pan Am games and won the whole thing in Mexico. So, it was really cool to be a part of that. But it's fun to see. I mean, you guys know this. Like, if a 10-year-old kid really wants to be good, well, let's see how good he actually is right now. That's
Right.
kind of what the USA baseball stuff's like. And I get to evaluate kids from the ages of 10 years old all the way up through, 17, 18 years old to see, what guys are actually ready to make that leap. And it's the top 25 players in the country that actually make the USA team. But every kid that's ever gone to the NTIS event, especially from up here in our area, has said that event itself has been some of the most competitive baseball they've played in. So, if you're looking for an opportunity to play really competitive baseball that's not, in the state of Florida or flying across the country, the NTIS stuff is really cool because we evaluate the talent, but it kind of puts them under a microscope with some scouts that are evaluating them. But you get to play games. It's actually a tournament, which is really fun.
Yeah. Now I know that there was one just done. I think it was beginning of this past weekend actually up in Chicago. There was an event there, but if I have a kid that's out, and away from a metro city, and I want to give my son or a chance to be involved, what's the best steps to take to get my kid involved in that?
Yeah, just Google USA Baseball NTIS. There's 6 regions of the country, and they bring 2 teams from each region at every age level. They do it stars and stripes, which
Yep.
makes a lot of sense. And so you basically just go to an event within local and figure out if you're one of the best kids locally. If you make it through that round, you go to a regional event, which is basically your entire regional network, and they basically pick the team from there. And they do a selection show. It's really cool. They do a full selection show on usabaseball.com, pick the team from there, and then the event happens in August, and you go down to the USA Training Complex and you get some gear, and you get to listen to. I think last year was the 12U USA baseball coach that won the world championship.
Hmm.
Talked about his experience and why this event really matters. And they actually take kids from that event to make the national team. They really, and it's an awesome event for kids to go play a game, meet new friends. I talk to a lot of the kids that are on my team still. They'll message me on Instagram and ask me how I'm doing, and I'll see how their training is. So it's not just the stress of trying to make the U.S. national team. It's also, the coaches down there do a really good job of connecting with the kids, which I think is really important.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible honor. I mean, to come out and try out for your country. I mean, I think that's an amazing opportunity for kids. And yeah, that team last year, man, they just ran right through everyone. Like that, it was, it was something to be proud of. That's for sure. So I would say some future draft picks, maybe on that team there. So
Just a couple. Just a
yeah,
couple.
just a couple. All right, so you started what's called as the Hot Corner Futures organization. Tell us a little bit about this, and if you're driving, listening, I want you to pay special attention to this because this is incredible. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ron.
I get goosebumps when I even think about this project. Literally, I just this is my probably my favorite accomplishment in business, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, so I started Hawkmoor Athletics. I want to provide for my family, and everybody in here knows that baseball is an industry where if you really care about the game and you do a good job, you can make a pretty good living.
Yep.
There's no secret behind that. We have an 18,000 square foot facility. We work with kids that want to be really good. I get that. A couple years ago, my brother and I, who actually just moved to Charlotte, he was one of the founders of the Futures Foundation. And he's moved on, which has been great. He did a really good job when he was a part of it. But we sat down and we said, we work with a lot of kids that pay money to train with us, but are we really reaching everybody? And obviously the answer is no. So we said, how can we help a different community of people that maybe can't afford what these kids can, maybe don't have the same privileges. And I don't have the infrastructure like Major League Baseball's RBI development program.
Right.
I can't build a field in the inner city and have somebody run it. I don't have the infrastructure for that. So I said, how can I build something that actually matters, that people are going to want to get behind? So 100% of the money that's brought into the Futures Foundation is donated. It's donated to little leagues to sponsor kids that can't afford to play. It's donated to, we just did a donation to Oshai Children's Hospital, which is a children's hospital in Buffalo. We had 2 kids that came down with cancer this year, at our facility. We've had 4 since we opened.
Wow.
Am I going to be able to pay for 100% of their medical fees? No. But what I can do is I can give back. I can give back as much as I physically can give back.
Right.
And it's cool to see how my team at Hot Corner has really come together to, be a part of this and do something for it. So we do 2 things: bring in money, we find a charity, we find an organization to give it to. 100% of it goes there. Um, outside of little things like a tent, if I need a tent but like little things, we make sure we can operate. Outside of that, everything else is donated. And then we do equipment drives. And the equipment drives were the driving force behind how the Futures Foundation even became a thing. So again, I work with a lot of kids that are fortunate enough to play this game and have the $500 bat. So what I did was I said, all of us have things that are just laying around in our garage. I'm going to run an equipment drive and see how it goes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to donate 100% of it to kids that need it. I'm not going to sell anything. I'm not going to make any money. I just want to give it away.
Yep.
The support was incredible. I mean, I had 400 pairs of baseball pants, 200 shirts. I had, I had 4 bins of cleats. I mean, everything that you could possibly want was donated to us, and it's still being donated. And then I ran equipment drive. I ran one in New York, and we gave away enough equipment to 75 kids. I'm talking full out pants, cleats, glove, bag, helmet, everything.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't have to buy a single thing this year. And then after that, we did one in Pittsburgh. It's where I'm from. I would love to do some stuff down there.
Yeah.
And, again, another probably 7,500 kids first year. So we're giving away, 150 to 175 kids are getting equipment in year one. Then I ran one in Pittsburgh, 175 kids. And the thing that really hit home for me was that it wasn't even just the fact that kids that wanted to play baseball were getting equipment. There's one situation, I told you about this. There's
Yep.
one situation that really hits home to me. Like, there was a family that came in, and caretaker, guardian, whoever was taking care of the kids said,
Mm-hmm.
they've got 2 shirts in their closet. And I mean, like, my entire, like, I just sunk, and I felt like I have to do something. And again, I told you I had 200 t-shirts. So I walked back and I said, listen, I want you guys to take as many shirts as you guys need so that these kids can just go to school and not have to wear the same shirt every day.
Right.
That's the mission. The mission is to impact the lives of kids that aren't as fortunate as us.
Yep.
Period. I think we lose sight a lot of times of what we have. And I want to be able to provide people that aren't as lucky as us the same opportunities as the kids that are fortunate enough. Some of us don't get to pick our situation. You know what I mean? So being able to provide something to them where they still feel a part of it, I think is really important. And, right now I have so much equipment, like my office looks like a storage unit, and my storage unit is full,
Right.
to the point where it's like, this is great. Now I can actually impact hundreds of kids.
Right.
But even on top of that, I think including my kids, like I have 3 young kids, and my wife and I decided that we were going to do a, donation thing. We were going to sell stuff, and then the money that we brought in, we were going to donate. And we made like $500, brought our kids to the store, bought toys for kids in the children's hospital that, are stuck there. And we just donated toys for kids for the holidays. And I think that to me is why I am lucky enough to be in the position I'm in. Outside of the scouts and the college kids and the facility and all of that, it just puts me personally and everybody involved with what we're doing on a platform that we can impact kids that just aren't as lucky. And
Exactly.
I realize that now. At first you're just so ambitious to like grow your business and, be whatever person you want to be. But then you look at it a little bit deeper and you say, that's all well and good and that's cool. But what about that 7-year-old that can't afford a pair of pants? Let's make sure he has a pair of pants so he can show up to practice and not feel out of the loop or uncomfortable that he doesn't have what he needs.
Yeah. I think that, like, I got cold chills like everywhere right now. I mean, that's when the role of a coach becomes so much more. When you can change, because it is very possible that kid that showed up and got those clothes to wear to school, that is very possible that you prove to that kid who grew up in a bad situation, maybe it gave him some hope in life. And like that's where the good stuff comes from. And just thinking about like what you were referring to, like equipment that we have laying around our houses. Like I've got 4 or 5 pair of baseball pants just from my son that he's outgrown. We've got probably 4 or 5 pair of cleats, several gloves, of course, baseball bats. Like if there's other listeners out there like myself, how do we get that equipment to you so it gets in someone's hands that needs it?
Yeah. And I've thought about this a few different, I told you this, like I may even just, if we can do an equipment drive in a city, we'll just
Hmm.
come and do the equipment drive, clean it up over a day or two, and then do a donation drive and just donate it out.
Yep.
If the volume's high. If not, I mean, I would have no problem even covering the shipping on what it would cost to send it out to us.
Okay.
I have no problem covering the shipping costs, through our foundation to be able to
Hmm.
get the equipment in. But I'm really big on the community. Like, let's say you're by Charlotte. Let's say it's the city of Charlotte, right?
Hmm.
And we have 40 families that are willing to donate, you know, all of their extras, and we have enough equipment to go to a little league and do the donation. I would love to do that. That would
Yeah.
be amazing. Like that's the kind of stuff that I think would make this big, but it's not big to a sense of like, wow, Ronnie Bernick of the Futures Foundation is traveling the country to do donations. It's like, no, I have an isolated community that has a lot of really good people there that are trying to give back. Let's just go down there and give it back and
Yeah.
have the whole community be a part of it. Not it's not, and that's why I always say it's not about me when it comes to all this stuff. It's about being able to impact whatever community it is. I work right across the street from a little league that, I mean, just like every little league has trouble with enrollment.
Yeah.
So what if 20 kids could play for free? Now your enrollment goes up. Now the community starts to build. Now that kid, instead of being on the streets and getting in trouble, now has to be at a baseball game every Wednesday and Friday night. And now he's doing better for himself and has a coach that cares about him. That's how you change lives. And if I can be one person that helps that, and everybody on board can continue that, think about where we could be in 10, 15, 20 years as a community if we just all pitch in 2 pairs of baseball pants.
You're right. You're so right. I mean, well, look, you and I will do it. Like we'll take it on all on. So,
Do it.
well, look, I mean, there's a couple communities around here in the upstate of South Carolina and even into the Charlotte area that we could probably make something work. So let's continue that conversation for sure. And if anybody out there, look, go take inventory of what you guys have in your garages, in the back of your kids' closets. If you've got cleats, I know we do. Like even if you're listening to this right now and you think you don't, go check and see because I bet you do. There's going to be baseball bats. You got balls that you may not play with anymore. Really everything when it comes to pants, jerseys. I mean, you hear Ronnie's example of like just giving T-shirts and clothing to kid that may not have anything to wear to school. Like, just think about those things, and I think we can do some good in the world, Ron. So it's
Think
incredible.
about think about the one baseball that has a little tear in it that we threw to the side because we can go get a new one. That
Yeah.
that 5-year-old kid doesn't even know what a baseball looks like yet.
Yep.
Or can't afford to go get a baseball because they're $8. It's like that's the stuff that I never thought about. That when we started doing this, it was like, wow. If I had a little tear in a baseball, I'd throw it out. I don't throw that out anymore. I'm ready to give it to somebody that wants it. So
Exactly.
that's
Well,
it.
even batting tees, right? I mean, here's what I've discovered in the world of youth of baseball is batting tees are great when the kids are young, but then we pull away from the tees as we get older. And I've preached this so much on the show, but you know, kids should be using the batting tees their entire career of baseball. But like even batting tees, any equipment that you may have put aside. I mean, we all know that some of our garages are full of stuff that are worth a lot of money, but we'll never touch. So, let's get some ideas flowing. If anyone out there that's interested in helping maybe even do something in your community, please reach out to us. Let us know, and we'll see what we can do to help support you and make it a phenomenal event.
Absolutely.
So I got to ask this question, Ronnie. I know you said it, but just because it's a charity, how much money do you draw from this? All this goodness you're going on, how much money do you take out of that?
$0.00.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we put that out there. I think that is so important. Like even just it funds the operation of the nonprofit. I'm sorry, I was lost for words there.
Yep.
But man, I think that's amazing. And that's one of the things that I've learned as well, as I build a platform, for myself, the show, like we always have to find a way to give back. And because we know it, we didn't choose our situations that we grew up in. And there's, if we want to talk about talent, we're probably not even seeing some of the best talent that exists because of situations like that. And because you always, you see it in every movie. I mean, Hollywood tells us it's that way, but yet we don't do anything about it. But
Right.
there are kids there that probably would love to play the game, that would change the direction in their life, give them a focus, give them some structure in their life. And I don't know, man, I could talk about this all day long. So,
Love it.
man, Ronnie, that is awesome, man. How long have you guys been doing this?
Since the back end of 2020. So our
Okay.
first event was a charity wiffle ball tournament,
Okay.
and we had a couple different age brackets. We charged a $20 enrollment fee. Made a couple $1,000 and then went to 3 different little leagues in the area and split it 3 ways and said, all right, it's $100 for the kids to play in the little league. In this little league, we're going to donate $100 for 6 kids to play, 6 kids to play, 6 kids to play. So, our little wiffle ball tournament paid for 18 kids to play for free the next year. Like that's
Wow.
that's how easy it is, and we look at things like I want to make this huge impact on the world, but one kid is big enough.
Right, right.
If you can have 18 kids play for free, that matters. So that's how it started, and then from there, that's where the equipment drives came in.
Well, you hear a lot about, the little leagues around the world or around the country, the rec, leagues that we have. They're kind of fading away.
Yep.
And it's because like there's a lot of kids that probably would want to play but can't afford it, and all the kids that can afford it are moving on to travel ball. And like this is a way to really rebuild our recreational leagues, our little leagues, is to bring in more kids, expose baseball to many out there. And I think it's a great way to get started. And hope some of you guys that are listening, whether you're a player, coach, parent, like let's make a difference in one person's life this year. Like that should be all of our goals is, make a difference in one kid's life. And, we can hang our hats and be proud. So
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, Ronnie, man, I'm gonna tell you, like, you should be a fixture on this show, man. You got such a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day. Let me ask you one, couple final questions here. So, having 30 MLB draft picks come out of your facility you've worked with, what do you see as the key to success with those individuals? What put them in a position? Was it the talent? Was it the mental? Like what exactly was it?
They've always believed in themselves, no matter what anybody told them.
Mm,
Period. There's an undeniable belief. You can't get through that with those guys. They believe in themselves. When they make a change, they're making it, and they believe in it. When a coach asks them to try something and they say no, it's because they believe in it. So they believe in themselves more than anything else in the world. And all they're trying to do is build a team around them that's going to support them.
awesome. And I think that is something that we all can say is a huge opportunity today. Social media takes care of a lot of that self confidence and in a negative way and a bad way. And being proud of yourself, having confidence, making those type of decisions. I think that's something that we all can learn from a little bit there. So
Absolutely.
that's a great takeaway. So, all right, Ronnie. Well, we're at the end of the show now. Got our final question we ask every single person. So it's usually the hardest question that we ask. So you're walking up to bat today. What's your walkout song?
Oh, man. Good for you. Search and Rescue by Drake.
Oh, okay. All right. I,
I
you,
was always I was always a rap guy for walkouts. I was always like, I wanted something to try and like fire me up or get people fired up.
yeah. Yeah. Get the
Yeah,
crowd involved.
that's it. But
All right.
I did play against, forget what I know a team and what kid it was. I forget the song, but played against University of Kentucky in college. Austin Cousino was the leadoff batter. Got drafted, played in the pros for a while. He's actually coaching now. I've heard a lot of good things about him. And he had a walkout song. I forget what it was. I don't know if he ends up listening to this. I'd like him to just comment on your tag on what his walkout song was. There's probably 5,000 people in the stands, and they went nuts. And it was the most intimidating thing in the world. So like I've always felt like I wanted to do something that was going to bring the whole crowd or whoever was there, in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what makes the game fun. I go to some of these tournaments and we don't allow walk-up music and stuff. And, high school, look, are you familiar with this rule of high school for eye black? So what I'm wearing now, I want to thank Black Stick for sending me face tattoos. But like, there's even rules now where you can only have one line of eye black. And is it the same for you guys as well?
Oh yeah.
Like, yep. To me, like you see MLB guys doing this. It's a reflection of their personality. And when we start removing those type of things from the game, that starts to pull away from like the game that we grew up loving. So yeah, I think walkout music is great. Like, I mean, it tells you something about the player. And it gets the crowd going, that's for sure. So,
well, look at what the Bananas are doing.
You're exactly right. Right. It's nonstop.
And that's the reason why there's so many young kids that are falling in love with what they're doing. Yeah. You can say whatever you want about any type of baseball in the world, but kids are going to gravitate to things that they enjoy. So, if they want to be a part of a walkout song or want to catch a foul ball that's an out, they're going to keep going, and they deserve to keep going, just because that's going to keep them engaged forever.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's what helps build that love of the game. And, for parents out there, you've got young kids, make sure they love the game. Like, focus on that. What age, Ronnie, do you think is the age where we remove fun from the game?
Watch Ronald Acuna play baseball. Watch Ellie De La Cruz play baseball. It never leaves. If you really love it, it doesn't go away. That's it. Watch those guys play the game. They play with fun. You can call it swag, whatever you want to call it. They enjoy the game more than anything. And when we remove that from them, that's when they stop.
Yeah. Well, De La Cruz, man, I'm gonna tell you, it looks like every game he's playing on sandlot because he's taking chances. He's outrunning grounders to first. I mean, that dude. It's good for baseball, what he brings to the game, and especially Acuna as well. I mean, there's a lot of great ones out there, but that's for parents. Like, if your kid's not smiling and having fun when they're out there, when you talk about going to practice, if they're rolling their eyes, like, let's really examine what we're doing here. And are we forcing something on those kids that they may not be ready for yet? So let them have fun as long as they won't. Let kids be kids, and we'll be okay. So, all right, Ronnie, we're going to close out the show, man. And at the end of every show, we let each guest say, I'm going to say, until next time, and then you're going to say, we will catch you on the slide, okay?
Okay, you got it.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone out there for listening. Make sure to, tell your friends about us. Follow us on all the social media platforms. Send us some ideas, send us some guests that you'd like to hear from on the show. We've been really good, high percentage of getting most people that we're looking for. And we're in the middle of season 3, so anything's possible. So make sure to stay in touch with us. But Ronnie, until next time,
we'll catch you on the slide.
We thank you for toughing it out and pushing through. Now, let's go teach the world great sportsmanship, leadership, to go inspire someone through your dedication and excitement for the game. Make sure to smash the like and follow button on all social media at The Slide Podcast Show and The Slide Pod on Twitter. Plus, leave us a review and feedback. Until next time, we'll catch you on the slide.